Hi, this is Koji again. Short update. Energies are building up sharply. Today, just a few hours ago, Mars joined Saturn in Aquarius. You see it down here. Mars at 000 Aquarius. That's this little line, and very closely by Saturn, they will conjoin tomorrow later today. So we are still in kind of in the build-up phase of this Mars-Saturn conjunction, which is maybe the most important of all the planetary conjunctions right now in this present few days. So let's just look at this chart for a moment in respect of what I said in my latest podcast, where I put quite some emphasis on this early Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio and Taurus Grand Cross, the four mutual signs, the four fixed signs, which are, I should show you this quickly. There's four minor points here: Varuna, Radamantis. Here is Saturn and Mars, naturally not minor points, and there is TX 300 together with Uranus. I was showing you that this is probably the whole configuration which is helping us to really nail them down, bring them to justice, all these bad guys, all these many cabal operatives, which we hope will be removed from their positions in the next short while, as there are 158,000 sealed indictments. We are really hoping, and we got the information from several sources, that this is most likely happening next. So Varuna being named after a pre-Vedic deity, creation god, very ethical, wanting to do everything exactly right, caring for rights of people. And then there's Radamantis, named after a Greek king who was in charge of justice, actually so much so that Zeus, the master god, made him the judge of the dead, which is quite something, because that's the final judgment. Saturn, Mars naturally up here, activating these other few more minor points. Mars-Saturn being the police force, it's Mars, the active principle, and Saturn, the law, the karma, the one who makes the final calls. Mars in Aquarius now too. Aquarius, Uranus signs of kind of in air in Aquarius, which is the fixed air sign. Those two are way more involved in society. So there's lots of these energies now interacting with what is happening on this planet, and one can kind of feel it. It's got, since Saturn moved into Aquarius, that's now 8 days ago, on the 20th pretty much, or 10 days, there's been a big uptick in events, I would say, in rumors, in everything has kind of almost doubled the intensity, and that definitely has to do with Uranus, which is powerfully placed here, squaring that Mars-Uranus, Mars-Saturn conjunction. TX 300, a newly discovered body which has that roughness and bold action implying to it. And as I mentioned, Varuma and Radamantas, those two big deities, energies who are in for absolute justice and ethics to get everything exactly right. So this is the energies which are coming into play strongly over the next few days as Saturn and Mars are fully activating them. And let me just get back to this other screen here. Okay, so here you see all the planets and the asteroids in it too. So okay, let's focus in on what this moment had in store. This initial moment for the whole planet, with Mars being in Aquarius, which will lay the foundations of Mars actions in the next several weeks. We have an ascendant of 24 Libra, and at the descendant is Eris, exactly, squaring Jupiter, Pallas, and Pluto here, that very tight conjunction, which is another real main theme. Jupiter is the planet of greatest size and fastest speed, lots of momentum in there. Pluto, the planet of change, of transformation, and Pallas, intelligence, the use of planning and meticulous everything, putting it in place. So it's the mental capacity comes in here, all in the area which is ruled by hexagram 61, inner truth. I mentioned that before. That's very important too. It's about finding the truth. Jupiter, Pluto, a fast and furious development. And Pallas also is the goddess of justice, often depicted with the scales and blindfolded, and the sword in the other hand. It's very strongly related to justice. Mars-Saturn here, as I say, in the first degree of Aquarius now. And what I forgot to say is there is Eris, right, squaring this stellium. The square aspect is adding energy, adding charge, and also creating friction. Eris, named after the goddess of discord. Actually, she was the one who overthrew the planetary hierarchy, who made Pluto lose its planetary status in 2006, after astronomers had found she was likely bigger or at least the same size as Pluto. So Eris has caused quite some trouble in the planetary hierarchy, and overall that's what we have found studying her. Eris is always a troublemaker, throwing in that splitting argument which polarizes things, which makes the sides being recognized where everybody stands. And then Eris' greater intention is to bring peace, but peace can only be found by first going through the stage of discord, of exposing everything, of finding the deeper truth, which then will hopefully unite us all. So that's kind of a bigger theme. Pluto here and Eris are both really slow moving points. Within the next 2 years, that aspect, that 90-degree aspect, will be in and out of orb. And we are just in the beginning of this process. The first exact square those two had was in January of this year. Then the moon. Okay, interesting. The moon at 21 degrees in Gemini. That is the position where the American nation's Mars is. Just show this quickly here. This is Mars in the chart for July 4, 1776, the American independence. And this chart is Mars in Gemini. So let me go back to the other one. I want to make my point here on Mars, and this is the chart of today's Aquarius ingress of Mars for Washington DC, and here we have 25 degrees Leo rising. That's President Trump's Mars. See here, 2646. Okay, here is the Greenwich chart once more for that moment when Mars entered Aquarius earlier today. I mentioned the moon here at 21 degree Gemini. As I'm recording it, the moon is around 24 degrees Gemini, so within the next 12 hours the moon will enter Cancer, its own sign, and it will line up with the lunar north node, and then also it will be the time when Mars and Saturn will be exactly conjunct. That's when the moon is around 3 degrees in Cancer. So what I'm getting at, the energies are building sharply. It's like a hyperbolic curve of intensity. We have so much cardinal energy here with Jupiter, Pallas, Pluto, and then the Sun, Chiron, the Black Moon, Aries. So most likely as the moon enters Cancer, its own sign, then this big square here, particularly the one from the Sun to the node, and from the moon to the node, and from the moon to the Black Moon and Chiron, will be activated, and that might really be the start of action. I was drawing the charts for that moment, and here is it. Here is what it looks like. So let's start with the Greenwich chart, which really made me convinced that this might be a very important ignition point for getting the whole operation rolling, which would eventually mean blackout, no internet, no phone for a few days, 3 days at least. Might take a little longer than that, depending on how fast they move, how easy it all falls apart. So what we see here is Mars-Saturn exactly at the 7th house cusp, most exact 0015 for that moment when the moon enters Cancer, 027 the Mars, 038 Saturn. Only hours later, as I say, Mars will be exactly at Saturn's spot and restarting a whole new Mars-Saturn cycle, which in itself is an important feat, as it lays the ground for a full year or more of Mars-Saturn energy. So this is quite a critical moment, it seems. And if we look at this moment in Washington, then again we have a very similar chart. Remember, the other chart had the ascendant here at 015 Leo. Here it's 29, 30 or 20 Aries, which is an out of sign square to this point, which brings Mars-Saturn exactly to midheaven. And I guess you can see where I'm getting at. And last, I want to show you the Mars-Saturn conjunction chart, which is then just a few hours later in the afternoon around 2:30, kind of when the high point is hit. And again, here you see the moon at the north node now, exactly the north node being the direction of evolution at present in early Cancer. It's the integration of the Cancerian principle of being connected with our past, our ancestors, with whole history. Cancer is the sign of record keeping. It's also the integration of all the lunar energies of emotions and feelings and all that big underbelly of who we are is very lunar, very primal. So this is a kind of a healing in general, which happens with the lunar principle as we are going through that difficult square between Chiron and the moon, the black moon and the sun. Not much later we will have the waxing square, I should say. Okay, I will leave it at this for now. Thank you for joining and listening, and till soon.